293.
Okay, short. Just okay, short. Okay. 631 861 1293 అది పనిచేస్తుంది కానీ అది ఎవరికో కాల్ ఫార్వర్డింగ్ వెళ్ళి ఉంటుంది కదా పని చూడండి
31 867 1293. లాలేష్ కింద స్క్రోలింగ్ చేస్తున్నావు కదా
మీ షో దాన్ని
షో ద నంబరు అంత డీటెయిల్స్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్
గెస్ట్ వచ్చారు చూడండి ఒకసారి
జాన్ లాలేష్ కింద స్క్రోలింగ్ చేస్తున్నావు కదా
స్క్రోలింగ్
షో ద నంబరు అంత డీటెయిల్స్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ జాన్
Nice to see you. I'll turn up this volume if I can find it. Volume. Oh, there we go. Volume. Oh, yeah, I'm at 100.
Hello, John. How are you?
Good. How's the volume now, okay?
Volume is a lot better now.
Good. I'll keep my voice up.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
I would have put a tie on, but it's Sunday, you know.
No, that's okay. So how are you?
Doing very well. Yourself?
Yeah, just plugging away. A lot of shows coming up because of the elections and stuff. So
I believe that. It's New Jersey. There's always an election.
It's always an election. Yeah, there's always an election. That's right.
Politics is never boring, though, which is
No. I absolutely love politics. I told you, right? I'm the campaign manager for my Republican mayoral candidate here in East Brunswick.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah.
How's that going?
Well, good. I mean, it's a lot of work. I mean, I'm releasing a couple of press releases every week, writing some articles. I'm a writer too. I'm an editor. I write articles also. Some press releases, articles, strategies, and all the traditional strategies went down the drain this time because of COVID, right? So yeah, the conventional strategies, they're not going to work anymore. No door to door, nothing like that. So,
and I also figure Murphy's going to do a vote by mail.
Yeah, I think that it's always,
which is not all that helpful.
Not helpful. It's helpful for the liberals, not for.
Well, they're really good at that because historically Republicans turned out, Democrats didn't.
Yep.
and now they've kind of developed a pretty good vote by mail strategy.
Yeah, exactly. So that's yeah, conservatives are always at a disadvantage with the mail-in. So but this time we can't complain because of the situation. So
it's never what you predict, right? Life is whatever your plan is. It's normally changed.
How many years, John? Like 17 years now? 16?
I started in 2003 in the legislature, but I was in the Plainfield City Council for 7 years.
Yeah. 7 and
So, you know, so it's amazing what you can learn in 25 years.
Oh, please. I have a lot of respect for your experience. I mean, just 2 years. I mean, learn a lot. And you've been for 16 nonstop. I mean, that's pretty unbelievable.
That's just in the legislature. And I was the only Republican in Plainfield.
I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's interesting what you learn over the years. It really is. And you finally find this, you find yourself.
Yeah.
After all these years.
Yep. That's true. It's unbelievable. You're right. I mean, I love what you said. Politics is never boring.
No, absolutely.
You can never be bored. Tell them to on the scroll. Yep, put on the scroll. So what do you think is going to happen next year?
Next year or this year?
Next year.
You mean the gubernatorial race?
Yeah, well, actually, two-part question to you. I'm going to ask in the show. One is gubernatorial and, and assembly, whichever you prefer. I don't know what your target.
Well, I'm serious about running, statewide, but, I don't make any decisions until after November.
That makes sense.
But, I'm out there talking to people and make sure that I'm not running unless I can win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I come from the moderate division of the Republican Party.
Yep.
And I'm proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see whether that sells. I think it sells. I think what people want is authenticity.
Yep.
They want to know whatever you are, you are. I mean, look at Trump. I mean, if he was authentic, that's about it.
Yep. I know you don't like him very much, but
what I don't like is the way he treats people.
Okay, sir. Ready?
Yeah. Everything okay?
Okay. Let's go to 10 seconds.
10 seconds. Okay.
Great.
Just మీరు 10 seconds తర్వాత క్యూ చెప్పేస్తాను. జస్ట్ థంబ్ చూసేసి చూపించేసి గో. ఓకే. జస్ట్ ఓకే చెప్పగానే కంటిన్యూ అయిపోయింది. క్యూ చెప్పాలి. Okay, 9 seconds. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Q.
Hello and welcome to Straight Talk with Arun Kumar. Today's topic is about, as usual, politics, and my guest tonight is Assemblyman from the state of New Jersey, John Bramnick. Hello, John. How are you?
Great to be with you. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for your time. John has been an assemblyman for over staggering 16 years now, and he's also been a councilman for 7 years. So John brings with him a lot of experience to the field. What do you say, John?
Well, I'll tell you, I've been the Republican leader since 2012, and in New Jersey, we've been in the minority since 2003, so I have a lot of experience being in the minority. I'd like to be in a majority. And I'm hopeful that after we do the new map after the census, that we'll be in the majority. But It's always a struggle in New Jersey. You have to face the fact.
Yeah, it's funny you speak about that. That was my first question. Do you think New Jersey would ever be a red state in terms of
Yes.
Senate
Yes.
elections?
Well, if you look at the pendulum swings in politics, right? You've had Democratic governor for 4 years, then you have a Republican governor for 8 years. Historically, if you look back, we've gone back and forth with governors. The difference in the legislature is that's a map that's created for 10 years. And if the map goes the wrong way, which it did 10 years ago, it's difficult to overcome that. But look at the presidential elections. You go from Obama to Trump. You go from Bush to Clinton. It's a pendulum. And pretty much that's how politics works. So yes, I actually believe that a Republican wins statewide. And if we had the right map, we can win statewide.
Yeah, but that's the federal elections, national elections, right? New Jersey has pretty much been on the bluer side, if you will, for quite a long time. So Republicans have been facing a tough time to shift the pendulum, in this analogy, towards the red side. What do you think is stopping that from happening?
Well, the gubernatorial elections, obviously that's not true because we've had Republican governors. On the legislative side, you have a problem with the map. We've lost the map twice. So that's 20 years of a bad map. If you had the right map, we could win the legislature, but twice we lost the map. And when you lose the map, you lose the legislature because legislatures are gerrymandered. And when they're gerrymandered, you almost can't win. So yes, there's more Democrats in the state, but there's a lot of independents in the state.
Yeah, unaffiliated voters too. Yeah, I agree gerrymandering is one aspect of it, but otherwise, don't you think that's reflecting the voter sentiment? Somehow Republicans were comparatively unable to get closer to the voter base as much as the Democrats did. Do you think?
Well, think about this. Chris Christie won by 60% of the vote, and that's only, let's see, 6-7 years ago. And we lost the legislature. So the map has a significant effect on who's in the legislature. Otherwise, when a Republican candidate statewide can win by 60%, you can be assured that the Republicans can win the legislature. You just need districts that are fair and competitive.
Right. Let's talk about elections, right? So since you're talking about anyway, so what do you think is the chances of the Republican Party next year?
Next year,
the legislative elections.
Well, you know that the Democrats are trying to avoid redistricting. They had a bill, which was actually a constitutional amendment to keep the districts the same for another 2 years, which would change the Constitution. If they are successful in doing that, which I think is really unfair, it's going to be a problem because this map, as we've seen for 20 years, is just not competitive. So if they're able to change the Constitution, there's a problem.
Right. Talking about bills, I heard there's a bill which got passed, which permits undocumented workers to get licenses in the state of New Jersey. Is that right? And what's your
there were no Republican votes for that, and here's why. If the federal government wants to change the immigration laws, then let's change them. But to change the law state by state and say that someone who's here illegally then now can have a license as a professional, like you got to have it one way or the other. I can understand why you want to change the immigration laws because we do have millions of undocumented people, right? But you can't do it state by state because in essence, you're saying you're violating federal law. So that's why there were no Republican votes for it.
It's absolutely zero votes, right?
Either we respect the law or we don't. It's one way or the other. You can't be in the middle in terms of respecting the law.
Right. Talking about elections, what do you think the money has a role to play in elections? Because Steve Sweeney's District 3 has been one of the most expensive races in the legislative history in the US, right? So what do you think money has to do with elections? Why is it getting more and more expensive year by year? Elections?
Well, I remember Chris Christie used to say the candidate's important and which way the wind is blowing is important. So if it's a Democratic year or Republican year, candidates always the most important. Second would be which way the wind is blowing. Third is money. So, you know, if I get on TV and I can criticize and say something about you with $5 million, guess what? That becomes the facts. Money is a really big deal because you can paint a picture of your opponent. And that's really what people listen to. So if you hear over and over again that John Bramnick's a crook, you go like this, you know, John Bramnick's a crook. So money's a big deal. Candidates number one. But if it is a Democratic district, heavy Democratic district in some of our urban centers, you can have all the money in the world on the Republican side. You're not changing the outcome.
Yeah, I think with money, it could also change the narrative.
Of course, because you think about it, there's so many different media outlets. People are into their own app. So some people watch Fox, some people watch MSNBC, some people watch CBS. So in order to get to people, you have to spend money. You have to get to the internet. You have to do social media, and it's very expensive. Last time they spent millions against me, right, and I had to spend millions against them. But if they had spent millions against me and I only had 100,000, I probably would have lost.
Right. Everybody talks about this, but nobody does nothing about it. The high property taxes, right? What have you done or your party has done in your district or in general in the state of New Jersey to curb property taxes?
Sure. Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to limit state spending. So I've had a constitutional amendment, which I would love the Democrats to pass, which would cap state spending at 2%. Remember, Governor Murphy has raised revenue, or should I say expenditures, by 11%. Towns, counties are capped at 2%. Unless you stop the spending, you cannot limit property tax. So let's assume you capped it at 2%. What would you do with the other 8%? You would give it back to the schools, you'd give it back to the municipalities. No question that there's enough money coming in at the state level up until the COVID-19 pandemic. Before that, they just spent whatever they had, as opposed to sending it back and reducing property taxes. So if you're going to continue to spend and you don't give money to the municipalities from the state, also in Florida, they have what's called homesteading. So I have a bill that says the following: your property taxes are capped. They go up very little. Now, the new buyer, the young family with children, then property taxes will go up. But the new family that has children, new income, they're a growing family, that's what Florida does in other states. That's what we need here. So a senior citizen can stay in their house. And the new family that has the income can pay the higher property tax. But we can't do that until we stop spending at the state level. And that doesn't seem to be in the cards of the Democrats.
Right. So you've been winning nonstop since 2003. So what's the secret?
Well, first, I think being authentic, right? People can tell when they watch you on TV, they can tell whether you're real or not. They don't want to hear what the pollsters have told me to say. And that's why I get in trouble a little bit, as you know, because what they want you, and think about Donald Trump, and you know I'm not the biggest fan of Donald Trump, but he won because he's authentic.
Yeah. I was going to ask you a question.
Well, I'm happy to talk about him because of, you know, his interpersonal stuff. But here's the story. People can listen to you and they can tell you, is this guy giving me political speak or is he talking from his heart? People don't expect them to agree with everything you say, right? No one expects it, but they do want you to be honest. And I feel comfortable that I've pretty much been myself. I mean, I've had a couple votes that, you know, that I've made some mistakes, but if you say you made a mistake, people go, all right, he seems okay. I like him. I think that's really part of it. They have to think you're real. They think you're authentic and they have to like you. I think that's number one.
On that note, why does John Bramnick dislike President Donald Trump?
Well, when I got in the legislature in 2003, I believed in civility, especially when we talk about other Republicans, right? Now, my first allegiance is to New Jersey and to New Jersey voters. And as far as what I could see with President Trump, when he would say bad things about McCain or even Mitt Romney or President Bush, to me, I respect most of my Republican Party. I don't like when we badmouth each other. And to me, the most important thing is we treat each other with respect. That part of his personality. Now, on the other side, we have a left-wing Democratic Party that will destroy the capitalistic system in this country. So it's not that I endorse this crazy left-wing nonsense that I think has been a disaster in New Jersey. It's been a disaster nationally. I still feel comfortable saying we respect each other. We treat people with respect. We don't call each other names. I learned that in the second grade. So I'm not going to apologize for saying, look, I don't care who you are. I don't care if it's my son or the president of the United States. We treat people with respect. And you can argue without calling people names and making fun of people. I don't like it. Simple as that. I don't like he called Marco Rubio short. When do you call people short? Like that's the part. Be respectful. Treat people with respect. I find most people are like that. And I'm never going to get over that. And people don't like that. Hey, so be it.
What about the people on the other side of the fence? They call Donald Trump a racist, fascist, and whatnot. A lot of things, right? I can't even say those on the show. But
hey, I'm the first one. I've been on the front lines as the Republican leader challenging Murphy. I've been the first one to say AOC and the Democratic leadership doesn't talk about violence in the street. You've got people taking over courthouses. Yep. You have people that don't respect police.
Antifa.
That doesn't mean, look, I'm not part of a cult here, right? I'm part of a party. And if I see something in my party that I think is disrespectful, I'm going to say it. That doesn't mean I endorse the nonsense I see on the other side. But that's the truth. I'm not a fan. I'm not just a fan of the New York Giants. You go like this. I root for the Giants. I root for the Giants. I root for Republicans. I'm the Republican leader in New Jersey. My first allegiance is to New Jersey and to the Republican Party in New Jersey. It's not to the National Republican Party. If I see something I don't like, I'm going to say it, period.
All right. Let's talk about when we talk about the 16 straight years, about 17th year, I guess, in the legislature. I looked at the voting percentages you received every time you ran for office. It's been constantly coming down. If in the past decade, it started from 33%, went down to 29-ish percentage, and then 26, and the latest elections about close to 26%.
Oh, sure.
The percentage has been coming down. Did you ever analyze as to why that's happening? Did you know?
Yeah, because there's more Democrats moving into my district. I mean, I didn't do that well at Plainfield High School in math, but when I have more Democrats in my district now. 10 years ago, I had many more Republicans. And this last time, I had both sides running against me. So the truth of the matter is, you put more Democrats in any district, you get less votes. Simple as that. You don't have to know about algebra, trigonometry. That's it.
Right. Well, why do you think, historically, why do you think Democrats vote in higher numbers than Republicans? Why is that so?
Well, recently, because of the mail-in vote.
Okay.
I have to tell you, the Democrats have been working on this. First, they passed mail-in voting a few years ago, and they work it. A lot of Democrats in the legislature are on the public dole. If you look at who is in the legislature and what their job is, a lot of Democrats are basically relying on government. So they're going to work really hard to make sure that Democrats keep control. And a lot of that is mail-in voting, because historically, Republicans went to the polls. A lot of Democrats didn't in off-year elections. Now they've got mail-in voting, and Democrats go door to door, and they're good at it because that's their life.
Right. Are you in the gubernatorial race for 2021? Where does the interest lie? Are you interested in running for governor, or you want to keep running for the House?
Well, I'm going to make that decision in November. I'm seriously looking at the race as governor. During my 18 years in the legislature and my 7 years in an urban center as a Republican in Plainfield, I've learned a lot. And I know that you have to, and I watched Chris Christie do it. I served with Jim McGreevey. I served with John Corzine, Dick Cody, and Chris Christie, as well as Governor Murphy. And I have to tell you, I've learned a lot on how to get things done. So I'm going to decide in November where I can bring those skills. And I feel as if I run, I can win. Because I think people think that, I'm not a crazy partisan. I'm never going to be. I run a law office. It's to get things done, to be successful. I built a law office, just me. Now I have 50 people, right? So I think I can get things done, but I'll make a determination right after November. And as I said, I'm serious about it, and we'll see. But I bring a little experience. Experience is good, and in any business, experience really good.
Yeah, it matters. It does matter. So, coming to the COVID situation, right? What's your take on how did Governor Murphy handle the current COVID situation? Do you think, how would you rate him?
Well, his grade changes. At the beginning, he was actually slow off the get-go. Princeton sent all their kids home, and Princeton University, and the governor did nothing. Then the governor got into it, and for the first few weeks or month, actually, he did a pretty good job. And then what happened, he went into isolation, meaning that instead of engaging people, asking them about different regions like Cape May versus Bergen County, instead of bringing the legislature in, instead of having public hearings, he started to dictate things at 1 p.m. every day. I think that was a big mistake. So he started out at a D, he went to a B plus to an A minus, and then he went back to the D. And at this point in time, he's not even talking to the Democrats. Now, understand this is a serious virus. Understand you have to control it. But look what Governor Cuomo did. In Long Island, in Sussex County, out towards Montauk, you can have dinner inside in limited situations. Upstate New York, you can. So I think his goal here is to lead the country in limited number of COVID cases. That's a laudable goal, but I think it's more complicated than that. So I think it's time for him to have open hearings, have everybody at the table, and listen to people who run a restaurant, listen to people who run a gymnasium, listen to an epidemiologist, but do it publicly. Don't go in the back room, come out, and then all of a sudden say, here's what we're doing. That's not America.
That's right. That's right. So you think he could have handled it better and be more transparent about things?
Absolutely. And if you've seen Steve Sweeney, president of the Senate, same thing. He said that. Loretta Weinberg came out the other day and said, you're hiding the statistics on how you're making a decision. That's a Democratic senator, right? So this is not just me. He's not talking to Democrats either. Once you get on CNN, once you get on all these TV shows, you start to feel your oats and you don't listen to anybody. I think it's a big mistake. And let me tell you something. Personally, I get along with the fellow, friendly enough guy, but I think this is still an open society.
Yeah. So in your about 17 years of your career, you must have sponsored or supported several bills in the House, right? What are some, I'm pretty sure you're proud of all of them, but what are some of your favorite bills which gave you that job satisfaction, if you know what I mean?
I'm going to talk about personal experiences because bills are important, but when people call my office, and this one's a little tough to get out, but there was a little girl in Warren who had a heart attack and died. And I sponsored a bill to put these devices in every school and in every recreational department in order that if someone has a heart attack, that they have the device, there. And we finally got it done. and all of a sudden in the same school, they saved a young girl's life, right? And we went to the Board of Education and they brought the parents of the young girl who died with the parents of the girl who survived. It's that kind of legislation that changes you. The other thing, there was a fellow who had late stage cancer, prostate cancer. He couldn't get a drug called Provenge. And I called the insurance company. I said, why won't you give him Provenge? He's still alive today, 10 years later.
Sorry to interrupt, John. We have a caller. Let me take
Oh,
this.
sure. Yeah, okay.
Hello, welcome to Straight Talk.
Hi, is it Arun?
Yeah, you're live on Straight Talk. Yes, please go ahead. We have our guest. We have guest John Bramnick. Hey, John, can you hear the caller's voice?
I can.
Yes. Hey, you have a question for John?
Yes. Hi, John. This is Vishal from East Brunswick.
How are you? Thanks for calling.
Good, John. So I have a quick question. First is I think that's the hot topic nowadays about this driver license for illegals. And I just said that New Jersey Assembly has passed it now. It's just waiting for Governor Murphy sign. And we all know that how devastating impact that can have on our illegal immigration or legal immigration. So what's your take on that? What can, as a Republican, you do about it now?
Sure. You know, the law is clear. If the federal government wants to change the immigration laws, and I can understand we might need some changes, but state by state is a problem, because once you open up the door, and we talked about this earlier in terms of professional licenses, once you open the door and you say you can have a driver's license, you can have a professional license, then in essence what you're saying, the immigration laws have no real effect. And I'm a big fan on the law. You want to change the law, let's change the law, but don't do it piecemeal state by state. And I spoke to Homeland Security secretaries, former Homeland Security secretaries, who are concerned about security risks when you start giving out licenses to people. So look, I believe that we should have some sort of path to citizenship. We should. You can't have millions of people here and no opportunity. I don't care if it's serving in the military. I don't care if they have to pay fines. You know, once you've been here for, you know, there are people who've been here for 20 years with their children. I'm not sending them back to some country that they don't know anything about. On the other hand, let's change the law in the federal system. Let's not do it piecemeal state by state. And then you don't know. I mean, if you're gonna have somebody give a license, but you're here illegally, how are you're gonna deport that person, but you're giving them a license? You know, I don't like inconsistency, and that's my problem with that.
But don't you think this will promote the illegal immigration if all states start doing like this, issuing licenses to the illegal?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, Aaron.
Illegal immigration?
Yeah, so I think what Vishal is saying is the solution you proposed, or your comment you had, would that not promote illegal immigration? Because if people keep getting licenses,
no, I'm against all those licenses. I voted against all those licenses.
Yep.
I'm saying that at the federal level, the states cannot just give driver's license, professional licenses. No, I'm against all of that, all of the legislation that gives a legal license or a legal professional license to someone who's here illegally. I voted against all of that. All I'm saying is the federal government has a responsibility to clean the mess up. And until they do that, I respect the federal law, meaning that you're either here legally or you're here illegally, period. But I was talking about a situation of, are you really going to send millions of people back to countries they haven't been in 20 years? I don't think even Donald Trump's not doing that.
Yeah, Vishal, just to repeat what we said earlier in the show, John mentioned that none of the Republicans, 0 Republicans voted for that bill. So all Republicans were against it. So just so you know.
Against it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we're not, there's no support for that. And I just think that, you know, one of the problems with this two-party system, especially in Washington.
John, I think Vishal had one more question.
Oh, sure. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Vishal. Go ahead. Could you repeat that?
Yes, John, sorry to interrupt you. Actually, I work with the law enforcement. I am also a auxiliary police officer. I just want to know what's your take on like all this defund the police campaign, and you know how it is putting our communities on risk.
First of all, defund the police. This is one of the reasons the left wing of the Democratic Party has taken over the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party 30 years ago, you know, when you think about down south, they worked with the working people. Now they want to defund police. I mean, it is so absurd. Do you actually think that defunding the police, look what's happening in New York City. They've had more murders in the first 6 months this year than they had all last year. You see people getting killed in Chicago. Do you think defunding the police is the best thing that happened to the Republican Party? Because everyone knows the police are not the problem, okay? Criminals are the problem. We understand all of the issues with George Floyd. We understand that we have to respect all people in society. That doesn't mean we respect the criminals. So we're going to defund the police. Who's going to go out and take care of the bad guys? You know, who's coming out? Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
So no, defunding the police is, the term itself is a disgrace.
Right. To me, that sounds like almost like an oxymoron. Defund and police. Oxymoron.
You know, who would ever thought that in America, people say, don't support the police? First of all, like, growing up, remember, I'm in my 60s. Growing up, if a police officer pulls me over with their lights on, I have to tell you, my heart sinks. And I think, even though my mother passed away, I mean, I can't even speak. Like, and what I mean is, I respect authority. It's simple. And I've never had a problem with the police. I know people have, but understand that now there is one thing I do agree with, and that's community policing. For example, wherever you are, police should get out of the car and talk to people in the community. Right. I really believe that, because I have seen, and this has been going on for years. Stop, talk. If you have time, go into an office, go into a retail store. When I grew up in Plainfield, you know, the cop on the beat. Now, we're not talking about, you know, cops who don't have time for this. Right. But talking to citizens is in Camden, we went with community policing, crime dropped 80%. Yep. So we do need to engage with the community, but we don't need to defund police. That's for sure.
Right. Michelle, you got the answers?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for calling. So yeah, on that note, I can proudly say I graduated from the Citizens Police Academy myself. So it was an eye-opener. Always had respect for police. It just doubled up after that course, how much they do, what they do for us. So
I don't know. I'm deeply concerned that, you know, if you have someone who does something like the police officer, George Floyd, most police officers, they respect people, they respect the citizens. You know, I'm sad that we've gotten to the point in our society where it's us versus them.
Yep.
And I think that's a threat to democracy.
Right. All right. Sorry, I interrupted you there. Let's finish that thought there about the bills you're talking about, the bills you're proud of.
Sure.
You're talking about setting up devices in schools. I think that's where we stopped.
Yeah, well, I felt that the thing, as the Republican leader, sometimes my best bills actually don't get passed, right? Yeah. Because what happens in Trenton is when you come up with a good idea, the Democrats will take it. But I felt my biggest contribution was actually constituent services, helping people who, in my judgment, couldn't get the drugs they needed. The defibrillator bill in every school, I'm really proud of. And I'm proud of the bills that eliminated the estate tax in New Jersey. I worked with Chris Christie on that. People moving to Florida, reducing the estate tax was something that we did when Chris Christie was here. Anything we can do to reduce estate tax. We had arbitration caps at 2% to limit basically how much property taxes were going up in the state. that was clearly something we worked together with Governor Christie. Anything we can do to limit people's property taxes is what I focused on.
All right. So I think that is all the time we have for tonight. Thank you very much, John. And whatever race you pick, governor or the lower house, we wish you all the very best on behalf of our TV channel. And any final comments?
No, but I also do comedy, and I need to do comedy because politics, you need some kind of outsourcing of your energy other than fighting with the Democrats. But thanks so much for having me, and I'd love to come back anytime you have time.
Sure, thank you very much. And to all our viewers, John Bramnick is also a stand-up comedian, which is why
you can go to funniestlawyernewjersey.com and you can watch his stuff.
All right. Thank you, John. Thank you for your time. It's always a pleasure.
God bless. Thank you so much.
God bless America.